What do you think? There we go.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. I want to say thank you so much for everyone coming here for our second show in the series of the Canadian National Healing Campaign. First, I want to express how honored I am once again to be the MC and the moderator. With some help from my friends, of course, for the second time. This is a beautiful show. We are coming up with an amazing program today with everything to do with mental health, which these days, I'm sure we can all agree that mental health is one of the most important subjects that we have that are going on in the world today. We've come up with an excellent campaign group of educators that are here for, like I said, for this national healing campaign that we're here for today. Of course, the true reach of what we're presenting here is, of course, an incredible stanchion for societal history. And people need to understand that we are ready and open to talk about a lot of subjects that we have not heard of before. Here today, we have Dr. Parveen Zarin, for example, a world-renowned homeopathic doctor who has been working on the international stage in incredible fashion. I'm deeply honored to have seen some of Parveen's work. So to me, to be part of this today with our campaign advocates and our chief ambassadors, it's an honor for us to be able to present this to the Canadian people looking for some answers out there. Parveen, do you have any opening remarks before we start?
Thank you so much, Lamont, as always. Thank you so much for your wonderful introductions. For some people who don't know me through recordings, yes, I'm Dr. Parveen Zarin. I have 3 different organizations, the founder of Homeopathy Nutrition Clinic, founder of Integrative Medicine and Nutrition, and I'm the founder of Bioquantum Academy. I'm a practitioner, educator, and lecturer, the author of Quantum Anti-Aging, and also global educational partner with and scientific advisor and chair of Global Scientific Guild, and also the leader of Canadian National Health Campaign. So I would like to have my special greetings from C.N.H.C, Canadian National Health Campaign team, to all Canadians from coast to coast who would like to hear different views and perspectives from the domain of natural medicine to overcome their health challenges naturally and effectively. We are here to help. We are a group of enthusiastic volunteers, and they have come together to help and answer to some of your unanswered questions. As you know, C.N.H.C is a national grassroots, non-political health and healing movement from coast to coast in Canada, and it's created for the purpose of raising health and well-being awareness to provide a much-needed learning environment for Canadians. C.N.H.C preserves, protects, and transmits the true knowledge, correct information, philosophy of natural laws, principles, healing abilities, and curing concepts in human beings. This was my short opening remarks. And as everybody knows, today is our session topic is on mental health, but they call it mental disorders, mental diseases. But I would explain to you that we do not have mental diseases. As my teaching models that I always talk about, philosophical, biological, physiological, and pathological aspects of human beings, medical conditions, and about life as a whole. Fundamental understanding about how life works as a whole and how you make your life happens to you is very crucial. The whole life is governed by the universal laws, natural laws, and principles as a whole. And human being is an absolute part of nature without exception. Violation of these laws and principles are detrimental and has consequences on human lives individually and collectively. We have seen this violation of these laws and principles in the past century, the past 125 years, with the clear manifestation of this violation in the past 2.5 years. They call it pandemic. Pandemic is a clear proof of decades of violations of these natural laws and principles that governs life as a whole. That's why I always say honest and truthful physicians and practitioners who honors their medical oaths, who wants to help but no harm, should follow these principles of life. They should not violate these principles whatsoever. But unfortunately, we have seen it over and over. That's why I do not call them doctors. They are the enemies of human race. I always say nature heals itself, and physicians are nature's assistant. We are not healers. You're the only healer of your life. We just give you right tools to help you get healed. Doctors are teachers, not medication prescribers. So as we know, everybody knows that mental health is on rise all over the globe, and is debilitating, is paralyzing the whole society. And very simple depression, anxiety, panic attacks, nervousness, ADHD, ADD, insomnia, psychotic disorders, schizophrenic, bipolar disorders, all named homicide, suicide, and many other related mental derangement are increasing in modern society. So I would like to, it might be a question of everybody that what happened to this modern society compared to earlier generations? I never seen my grandmother, have Prozac or antidepressant. So what happened that there is a dramatic increase in mental disorders in modern societies? As we know, we are the most comfortable generations compared to any previous generations, compared to our parents, our grandparents, and grandparents, but no sign of health and happiness in our society. What has gone wrong here? Because health and happiness is an internal domain, and in external advancement, technology can just bring comfort in your outside world, not health and happiness from within. External world does not bring internal life. We have to make it happen. All these problems, they call it mental disorders, is all because of ignorance and lack of knowledge. The current model, the current ignorant model, they do only disease management by artificial drugs. It's an absolute failed methodology. They keep creating useless medical terms and labeling people with these terms such as like manic depression, clinical depression, bipolar disorders, schizophrenia, psychotic depressions, postpartum, peripartum, morning, noon, evening depression, situational, typical depression, or whatever the name is. These are all the terms that created by the failed methodology. These are all coming from one disease and only one disease. These are all the manifestation on one disease. Human being does not have mental disease. It has only one disharmony, one chaos from within that presents and manifests in different dimensions of the human body. By suppressive approach, I always use this slogan that a patient cured, a customer lost for the failed methodology. Suppressive allopathic medications, unfortunately, is disabling all societies around the world. The number that I got, actually, it was a year ago, almost 25 to 50 million a year going only on antidepressant and anti-anxiety, antipsychotic medications, such as Prozac, such as Zoloft, such as Celexa. And plus, on top of that, I'm sharing that's my frustrations with you guys, because if I don't share this, that for me, it's very hard to kind of offer my natural solution. On top of all this suppressive approach, they do invasive allopathic treatments on top of that, such as electroconvulsive therapy, electrical pulses to stimulate brain activities, such as stimulating the brain with a form of magnetic stimulations. All these above artificial drugs and invasive treatments are dangerous and severely damaging the human brain for lifetime. Human brain is not a toy. Human brain is a God-given governor, regulator, moderator, and messenger to the rest of the body, but they play with it as a toy. I would like to just have a brief overview on brain and what the brain is doing here. Brain never ever creates disease. Brain always responds and manifests disease. Brain is a sophisticated electromagnetic device. As we know, the human body, the whole human body is an electric device. Contrary to the mainstream model, mental disorder, mental disease is not a brain disease. Brain never ever creates disease, and only govern and moderate the chaos and the chaotic situation and sometimes internal war that is happening in the body. The brain always detects the problem and creates solutions that called symptoms in order to bring harmony and balance inside the body and keep you alive at any given moment at any cost. That's a brain job. Nature gives a brain this job to keep you alive, to keep you survive at any cost. If it's going to be a damage to the liver, damage to the kidneys, damage to any organs, for some reasons, brain job is going to go on. But in deeper, chaotic, and malignant states of disease, when the toxins of disease, because as we know, the disease is that they have three different underlying causes. One of them is the toxication at the cellular level. When the toxins of disease enters the blood-brain barrier, and it's in a giant amount, disease would park in the brain, and the brain becomes a parking lot for the disease to manifest it, such as bipolarity, such as personality disorders, psychosis, psychiatric conditions, Alzheimer's, Parkinson, and many, many other conditions. These are not brain diseases. Brain never creates disease. These are the manifestation of one disease, one internal chaos that is parked in the brain. But unfortunately, with the current model, the focus is on the brain. The focus is on the manifestation side, not on the primary side. That can be very, very damaging to the brain for lifetime. Disease agents, when they enter, such as toxins, when they enter to the brain, they block, they suppress, or sometimes they destroy the communication pathways inside the brain, and the brain communication pathways between the brain and the rest of the body. When that happens, the body becomes very, very, very chaotic. So as I mentioned earlier, again, I try to repeat it, that the brain never creates disease, always responds to internal disharmony. Disease means dis-ease, means that when the body is not at ease. But disease has different phases that is not getting in, the brain does not get involved, such as excretory, such as excretion phase, such as inflammation phase. These are the phases that brain does not get involved. But when the disease becomes more malignant, more it goes towards the more malignant phases, then it presents at the brain. So as I said, brain is not the primary site of the disease, is the manifestation site. My message to all these failed methodologies: leave the brain alone. Let the brain govern. Brain is not a toy. Brain always and always detects the danger to the body from within and from without, and creates symptoms accordingly to keep the human body alive. Mental disorders or the alteration of mind is not a brain disease. It's the symptoms of much deeper disharmony from within the body. Brain must never be treated for mental conditions allopathically and suppressively. The primary site must be addressed, and inner disease must be removed, which the allopathic model and the current model never ever understand this. Their focus is on the manifestation side, and the disease moves deeper and deeper into much cellular level. Somebody guys, okay, I just admitted. So brain naturally has a solid and a strong blood, as I mentioned earlier, blood-brain barrier to prevent from any toxin to get into the body. But again, in the chaotic situation, that's inevitable. Brain has its own mechanism, detoxification mechanism. It's a very sophisticated device, and it knows how to do the job, how to govern the whole body. But unfortunately, with this model, this current model is been suppressed and is been kind of, as I said, it's been played like a toy. So brain makes necessary biological materials, such as neurotransmitters, to make you feel good, to make you feel healthy. But again, due to being chosen to be a manifestation site, unfortunately, is cause a lot of problems in the brain. So, as I mentioned, human being has only one disease with countless manifestation of disease. Human body has two major dimensions. One physical, which is the earth body, mental body, and emotional body. And one is non-physical, which is subtle body, dynamic body, or energy body. These two dimensions, at any given moment, they have to come into alignment. Always, they have to come, because they work in harmoniously and they work in collaborations. There is no such a thing the physical body can survive without subtle body. There is no such a thing that energy body can survive without physical body. These two dimensions are working harmoniously. That's why brain always and always try to bring these two, physical and non-physical body, into alignment. The harmony is like when the body comes into harmony, is like a radio frequency that you should tune it always. Like in the morning when we get up, we try to tune our body to come into alignment. Sometimes we do it like in a regular, basis. We do it with some, prayers, a morning walk, or a little bit of exercise, a little bit of getting sunshine, talking to a friend, talking to your loved ones. It's, on a regular basis, when the body just needs a little bit of tuning, that would be enough. But when the body is already mistuned, it's much harder. It's a disease state, and it's much harder and needs more work and effort to bring the body into tuned state. Simply, we can say the tuned state is the body is at health, we are restoring health, and mistuned state is when you're not feeling well and the body is diseased. So I just wanted to have a brief kind of overview on that. Alteration of mind is your coping mechanism and your survival. Anytime anything happens to us, it doesn't matter, it's physically, we break our arms, It's in a form of accident or in a form of shock, in a form of grief, anything that happens, because these two dimensions, these two bodies are working harmoniously, they're both affecting each other. So anything that happens, even at the physical level, is altering the mind. That's why in homeopathic case taking, we are focusing mostly on the alteration of minds. For example, if we take 10 rubrics, personally, I take 6 to 7 rubrics from the mind alterations, because it's guiding us much better to understand the internal chaos. So, but on the other hand, this alteration is your survival. There should never be suppressed. Never should be suppressed by suppressive medications, because these artificial suppressive and synthetic chemical drugs with the modern invasive treatments can be very destructive. You're shutting off all the communications pathways in your brain and with the brain, from the brain to the other part of the body. And also, we never ever use the useless terminology that the labeling people with mental disease. We don't have mental disease. We have only one disease with countless manifestation of disease. It could go to physical, it could go mental, becomes emotional, or it can go to subtle body, to energy levels. There is only one internal disharmony and one inner disease. But when the mind is altered due to the underlying causes, does not mean the disease is in the mind. The mind is presenting it. The mind always wants to keep you the same thing. As I said, the brain and mind always wants to keep you alive. Mind can be quickly altered by anything happened to the body, such as shock, accidents, traumas, food poisoning, bad company, bad relationship, disrespected communications, fights, anger, at all times, without exception, no matter in acute cases or chronic cases. In acute conditions, mind would align with the rest of the body quickly, but in a chronic cases, it lingers. That's why it needs attention. I would like to talk about why the disease manifestation goes to the mind. What's happening? As the father of homeopathy, Dr. Hahnemann says, in the organon of the medical art, which is our Bible. So I read it 6 times. So this Dr. Hahnemann would emphasize on this, that anytime that the disease manifests in the mind, there is a suppression in the physical dimension. Almost all mental and emotional conditions are one-sided disease in which the somatic symptoms have been suppressed, and the mental and emotional symptoms have heightened, means increased. There is a disease evolution. I always talk about it in my course. In this mini course of today, for me, it's very hard to address everything, but I quickly go through the evolution of disease. There is a disease evolution table, which applies to every single human body. Body never creates malignant disease at first place. Always and always create a benign phase, such as excretion, such as runny nose, such as discharges. And unfortunately, from the past 125 years, this excretion phase is being suppressed by allopathic model. Then it goes to inflammation phase, such as creates fever, such creates pain, creates swelling. Again, it's suppressed by allopathic model, by Tylenol and all those, like removing fever. This inflammation goes much deeper to the body, and the disease agent is going to be deposited. There is a phase, we call it deposition. This deposition, there is no doctors on the earth can figure out what's happening to the body. We can figure out in the excretion phase, in the inflammation phase, but in the deposition phase, there is no such a thing because the disease went to the matrix. It went to the intercellular level. So it's asymptomatic. There is no symptoms at this point. It's the body is trying to learn and adapt and understand what to do. Go further to more malignant or go back to more benign. The homeopath job is to understand the case in order to rewind the case and take it back to most benign phases. But allopathic model, it takes the disease towards more, unfortunately, malignant phases. And at this point, the disease becomes impregnated. It's like the body becomes pregnant with the disease. And then it goes to degeneration and then goes into de-differentiation, which is the most malignant phase of disease. The malignant phase of disease in physical body manifests as cancer, as autoimmune diseases, as insulin-dependent diabetes, in so many malignant cases. But in the mind, it presents in a form of psychotic disorders. So these are all coming from the same one source. The body is choosing to manifest it in the physical or in the mind. There is only one disease. In all diseases, no matter physical and mental, we must rewind the process of disease from malignant to benign. This is the homeopath jobs to do. I, as a classical homeopath, I do it. In some cases is very easy, some cases is fast, some cases is hard and challenging, but absolutely doable. We need a rewinding mechanism. Some do it with acupuncture, some do it with different like manipulation techniques, some do it, but we as homeopaths, we do it with homeopathic medicine and also with orthomolecular nutrition. Disease has to come back to the very benign phase. We have to stop the disease from progressing and processing towards malignancies. At this point, the disease is not going to go to the mind. Disease is going to go back to the benign form. What I'm trying to say is, when the disease presents in the mind, it means it's the most malignant phase of the disease. And it's the hardest for any physicians, true physicians, to rewind these phases to the most benign form.
Parveen,
Yes.
just to let you know, I was thinking maybe around another 7 minutes or so for you to go on the subject, because it's amazing that you're able to explain the hierarchy of where the manifestation of the mental disorders get to. I just want to say it's absolutely incredible to see how the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry push these allergies. It seems like everything I've learned about allergies is that it's the first step, like you said, the runny nose, the coughing, the sneezing, is that it's a wake-up call for some other ailment in the body, right? So I just wanted to let you know I hear you, and I just want to give you a little heads up on the timing. 6:45. Okay. What we can do then is get into the chief ambassadors and their presentation, because we are very fortunate. We're not fortunate that Dr. Manon wasn't able to show up on time, because she does have some issues with her family, which we probably understand have carried over from the weekend. So we'll keep the podium open for her to come back after we do our chat with the chief ambassadors. We have some words after that, and maybe you could carry on your presentation again after that 6:45 cutoff. Parveen, are you okay with that?
Yeah, but if Dr. Manon doesn't have presentation, I may go just a little bit further, maybe like a few minutes,
Sure.
Because I want to get into depression and anxiety and all those,
Okay.
things that is very.
Want to keep going on the same thread, or did you want to come back after the?
No, I can't. No, I'm going to go until I get into the depression and anxiety. Then I stop, then I stop, and the rest, I'm going to leave it until, for the end, if there is
Okay.
any, yeah. So,
Perfect.
yeah, okay. So as I mentioned, according to homeopathic domain, mental symptoms arising out of suppressed physical symptoms. So we always have to dig into the physical. We are human body is a psychosomatic, we did both are working together. But if you want, and I'm just, it's a message to the homeopaths, if you really want to treat or remove the disease from mental, you call it mental disorder, dig into the physical suppressed symptoms. So I think I explained the disease process, right? When it comes to the mental and emotional body, the depression, anxiety, panic attack, fear, these are the benign form of mind alteration. But when they are suppressed by allopathic, I keep saying it because that's the only suppressive method. And when they are suppressed with the synthetic and artificial drugs, after gradually but surely, they turn to deeper, such as obsessive compulsiveness, obsession, bipolarity, mania, schizophrenia, and malignant phase of suicide. Generally, in mental conditions, disease has deepened inside the body. In mental disorders, we should first look into the suppressed physical symptoms that has pushed the disease back to the mental levels. As I said, human body has, it's one unit, has one disease with countless manifestation of disease. Let me just get into the depression and anxiety, because it's running the society. It's a question of almost everybody, what's going on. Depression and anxiety, there are two extreme poles of one phenomenon. There is no difference between depression and anxiety. First of all, the brain creates emotions. Emotions are your survivals. When you suppress these emotions by suppressive medications, you're blocking your survival mode. Emotions are all created by the sophisticated, interconnected structures in the brain. We call it limbic system, such as hypothalamus, hippocampus, amygdala, and cortex. And they are playing a pivotal role, huge role in emotions and behavioral responses. Emotions are not chemical structures, and emotions are not a disease. The emotions are your survival, as I said, but they are electrochemical responses to internal biochemical changes in the body. There is always a biochemical changes from within the body, and then the brain is creating electrochemical responses to those biochemical changes. We call them emotions. So at this point, you understand what depression and anxiety are. They both are different emotions. One is hypo, such as depression, hypoactivity, and other one is hyperactivity of the mind. So these both are your survivals. But again, both are suppressed by suppressive medications. So at any given moment, dozens of chemical messengers, such as neurotransmitters, are active throughout the brain. They're all detecting everything. They're all detecting the harmony of the body and disharmony of the body. And emotions are controlled by the level of these chemicals in the brain. I don't want to get into the neurotransmitters, but I just want to explain a little bit of depressions and anxiety, the difference. For example, anxiety versus depression. As I said, they both are extreme poles of one phenomenon. The body becomes hypoactive in order to keep you survive, in order to keep you alive. Don't suppress it. And then, on the other hand, becomes anxious or causing anxiety, becomes hyper, the body becomes hyperactive. This is your survival mechanism. This is the hyperactivity and hyperactivity. It's a physical and mental. They're not a disease. They're survival mechanism to bring back your inner balance and harmony, homeostasis. But the reason, what is the reason the brain does this? Hypo and hyperactivity. Because if the body stays in a hypo state for a long time, it will die. On the other hand, if the body stays a long time in hyperactivity, such as anxiety, it will die. So at this point, these two are coming to save you. That's how the emotions fluctuate. The emotions, under no circumstances, should be suppressed. No chemistry or blood test can diagnose depression or anxiety because none of them is a disease. They are symptoms of disease, and symptoms cannot be measured by chemistry. So the science of current medical system cannot help this issue. And I would stop at this point. I have a lot to say, Lamont. If I have time to go forward, I can go, but I think I'm going to stop at this point.
Well, what we could do at this level, Parveen, is we could take, Nushin just came in. She didn't have a chance to hear somewhat if you've been able to present. We are a gentleman here, our iPhone number 416-930-299. Hasn't put his name here, so we're not sure who that gentleman is. However, someone here, one of our people, Nat, or even Quentin and myself, may have some questions for you.
Sure.
So I'd like to open that up to the possibility before the chief ambassadors have their presentation. And then after that, if you wish, Parveen, based on what we have to say and some of the comments and questions, you can always present after if you'd like for maybe another 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes.
Okay.
In graciousness to the subject, because mental health is such a huge topic that I think here today, we're not going to be able to nail down any one aspect of being able to treat this. I think this could very well be another subject another day for the amount of information that we can bring into this. It's irrefutable that the tendrils of this subject can be something we can talk for days. Absolutely. Yes,
it's a full course. It's a full course. This course at least is 50 hours. To talk about mental disorders, and they're much into it.
Absolutely. Well, I want to reassure some of the members that have just joined on here quickly that we are, we're putting these subjects forth to educate the people. However, we will be getting into to workshops or more intensive weekend sessions in the future, once we determine the information that the people will need to understand to make sure that they can, move ahead and take care of themselves, and quite frankly, even become certified in the future to treat people or to, work as healers in their own modalities. Correct?
Right.
So would anyone have any questions for Parveen at this time? She's done a very good job, by the way, of explaining the very basic. I know you've gone from being able to work with medical professionals around the world to now speaking to people that are now having to realize that responsibility for self-healing is at the utmost importance of moving ahead in their lives right now. So I think it's beautiful that you're able to do your best to kind of explain it to a way where even our friend Quentin can understand and see. You can even see him smiling at the fact, because I think everyone here definitely has had a run-in with this thing called mental health. And so does anybody have any questions for Parveen before we head into the Chief Ambassador's notes?
May I go?
Absolutely, Quentin.
I'm honestly trying to formulate a question that's permanent because Parvi, I really enjoyed that you brought in that there is one disease and there is a chaos and it manifests itself, and it's not the mind that is creating these problems, it's reacting and responding to it, and that we are an electrical component. And my daughter is just holding her tears right now. I might have to take a step just so that I can get a, but I just wanted to say that because we are electrical components and they manifest themselves so sporadically and more uniquely, do you think that there is a suppression and a dampening of our electrical outputs by our environments that could be what is the main factor to our mental health disorders and these diseases? And I think the answer is obvious, but I just was curious to hear on the more electrical component of the human body, what factors in our environment could dampen and suppress us, similar to Zolof's, and pretty much shut us down from our own healing blueprints and our connections. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So
Okay.
you mean what you mean is the environmental factors can cause disharmony inside the human body. That's
right.
yeah. Anything you know outside, definitely, from within and from without. That's a clear proof of it, that the pandemic, the lockdown, the whatever that happened, and the level of suicide, we heard about a level of mental derangements during the past 2.5 years. Not most of it came from within, but it caused a lot of disharmony and chaos and sometimes internal war in people that are susceptible, they have tendency, and they have some underlying causes that in a normal state, in a normal situation, did not drive them to commit suicide. But in this oppression, any suppressive method could be abuse by parents, by teachers, by societies, by governments, by any suppressive method can cause disharmony inside human body, because any suppressive method is against the natural laws, against the life principles, against the healing ability of the human body. But if the person, an individual that has predisposition, has tendency because of the underlying causes of, from childhood, and with this suppressive method that imposed from outside to them, can activate disharmony, can make them more, very quickly, can make them imbalanced, can cause internal war and chaos in them. So that's what environmental factors is a huge deal as well. So as I said, even relationships, even somebody is talking to you in a very disrespectful way, is using a word that is disrespecting you, it's rearranging you immediately. But again, not everybody is reacting the same. It all goes back to the predisposition and tendency of the sensitivity of the person. Some words may rearrange me quicker than rearrange you. But again, these are coming from outside. But all goes back to misalignment, because that's why they say relationship at the society level, at the work level, at a friendship level, at romantic level, at everything has to bring the person into alignment. What is alignment? Means the physical and non-physical body has to come in harmony. So anything that makes it disharmonious, it's a suppressive method. I don't know if I answered your question.
Beautifully.
Thank you so much.
I think also, Parveen, from knowing Quentin a little bit more, because we actually did spend some time together quite a lot, is also when it comes to diet Q, is that the minerals have been missing from food for so long that, to have electrical current travel through water, which is our medium of communication between our cells, is that the more minerals that are missing from our food and our water, is that the cells no longer have a way to communicate. and the oils that are in our food, those essential fatty acids, they have to be in a proper balance in the cell as that water and EFA, and for them to talk to each other in mitochondrial density, we've lost that connection. So the first thing you see now is lineups in the morning that add to rush hour traffic from Tim Hortons, Starbucks, and any of these caffeine-related pick-me-ups, because people are so shut down mentally that the next level is being able to get them with emotion, like Parveen said, and people are so quickly triggered these days, you know. So
yeah,
so,
to agree with Lamont, Q, 92% of diseases, chronic diseases, is caused by mineral deficiency. So as Lamont said, 92% of chronic diseases is caused by mineral deficiency. So because we are electromagnetic device, our heart, our brain, our digestion, our gate of the cells, everything works with electromagnetic. So, and what creates electromagnetic? Minerals. So mineral deficiency is the key, you know, that's very, very crucial. And we have to, you know, when we remove the disease, it's something that we have to address. That's why homeopath showers the patient by tissue salts. So tissue salts is the homeopathic minerals.
would you be able to talk a little bit more about that later, Parveen? Maybe you could make a mention of that, because you've mentioned tissue salts before, and I know Helen, you know, our other chief ambassador next to myself, who is going to be speaking next. It'd be great if you touched on the tissue salts, because I keep hearing about these magic little crystals. And Q, I think I cut you off, brother. Did you have something to say before we move on?
It was just going to be a quick comment on, it seemed like the main theme and thread of what you were discussing on the minerals and everything else was communication. And I feel that another wonderful topic that we can bring in on maybe another panel is just when mental health and communication, specifically with in our bodies, if there isn't this exchange of information, like you're explaining about the fatty acids and the oils, and as well within our people and everybody we're around, if there isn't this line of being fully aware of who we are and being in community, then you start to kind of degrade. And then on top of that, I find that most people that are on antidepressants or that are really trying to figure out how to heal themselves, they already know what they need to do, but there is this sort of suppression of that knowledge that they have. And then there is this external downloads that they didn't ask for from pediatricians, their parents, and their family, whomever. But I feel that, and my last thing, I just find that the main cause right now is that people are not initiating themselves into stepping out of this and searching for themselves, thinking that they can do that. And so then we have all the suppression of, confidence, and then eventually, the spiral. At least I speak for myself for that. But beautiful. And the tissue salts I would love to hear as well. So I don't mean to keep talking because
we have homeopath in the house.
We have a homeopath in the house.
We have homeopath in the house. Yes. Tissue salts are amazing minerals, because homeopaths we are not fan of mega doses of minerals, because we know how toxic they are. So we always go with a nano dose of minerals, because when the minerals even exceeding from the body's requirement can be very toxic. But tissue salt is the safest and gentle form of minerals to get in. And when we come for example, I would like to talk about the biochemical neurotransmitters in the brain. So they create electrochemical, which are emotions. Emotions are electrochemicals, which that's why emotions are your survivals, and they have to be supported, protected, not to be blocked or kind of postponed or suppressed. So but emotions at the if they stay with you for the longer period of time, can rob you from your minerals. That's why in my teaching, I always say emotions in the beginning for a period of time or your survival, but if they linger, they can rob you from your minerals and they make you more deficient than you are. So that's why the charge of the electrochemicals of emotion must be neutralized immediately, such as, for example, shock, grief, traumas. We have Ignatia Amara. We say just give Ignatia Amara immediately in order to take the charge, negative charge of the emotions out, but let the emotions work for you. So that's the way that homeopaths should treat the emotions.
Hallelujah. And I'm going to
Hallelujah.
have fun because now that we can block Q from being, you know, overly mineralized and super sensitive, we're going to have a way for us to make sure that that Quentin can lose his mind on drums in the future in the middle of nature, and all will rejoice in the sound of Q having a great time. Parveen, thank you so much. I'd like to open the floor, and you know, because I can tell, Parveen, that you're really excited about this subject, and I want to hear more about this later. But I'd like to open the floor for Helen Vung, our Chief Ambassador, to have a couple of words, if you'd like, Helen.
Thank you. Thank you. That was great, Parveen. Yeah, we should talk. I think the last talk, Dr. Manon did mention we should talk about tissue salt. So it's coming up again on this talk, and this is the second talk. So it's definitely going to be on the schedule. We're going to have to really schedule out. But minerals itself within the tissue salt, it does regenerate, right? As Dr. Parveen says, you know, the more you hold into your body, you deplete it. So the more you need and more minerals, and it goes into the cellular level. But we'll talk about that in, you know, probably in the near future in regards to tissue salts. But going back to the mental issues, the mental ailments that a lot of people are going through, what I've learned, you know, through when I was a student in the path of shamanism, there was a lot of courses to understand for how human are, you know, and this is as I keep on saying from last time, this is a vessel that we're actually been in privilege to choose and to work with, right? So whatever emotions that's in with us and emotions that's out and external factors that influences us, that if we're not grounded and that if we're not expressing ourselves, we're holding these waves, electrical waves within us. And the more we hold it, the more it goes into the body, into a cellular level, where you cause dis-ease, where the body is out of balance, right? So there's so many factors in regards to how the individual comes into this plane, into this body. It's like a lot of people who are not truly grounded, because I've always known, and people have been telling me that I've always been grounded, and that know few people who are very much like to, you know, to be in their head, you know, because the majority of the people, the huge majority of people are in their head, you know, formulating things, thinking, and they can't seem to stop it. But there are remedies for those too, right? As we know, Dr. Parveen can know as well. We can also discuss in detail if whoever wants, you know, consultations, protocols, you know, they can reach out. And we have other practitioners on the line as well. Notion Fakar, she is a nutritionist as well, and she's learning this, you know, and she's also become a wonderful friend in regards to this. So going back to mental issues, there's a lot of mental disease and there's a lot of categorization of what it should be, like Alzheimer's, and it's all about nutrition, it's all about absorption. Our mind itself and our brain does take a lot in, even though it's small and it's so encompassed and so encaged in our brain portions of it, like so protected that it takes a lot in and it absorbs a lot and it needs a lot of nourishment. In order to do that properly, we need some very good nourishments in regards to that. And yeah, through this whole situation, as we all know, we all been through this 2.5 years. There's been a lot of disconnect for a lot of people. You know, a lot of mental distress, which causes more of anxiety, goes back to getting your nutrition back again, get into the basics of the nutrition, you know, to like flourish your microbiome again, going back into simple minerals like magnesium, silica, which is needed because since we're supposed to have this talk on Saturday and it didn't really happen because The full moon is a harvest moon, technical problems. That's why we're here today, and we're making the best as we are through this today. So yeah, it's a combination of everything that's coming upon us. We have to have support around us, but sometimes as tough as you think we all are and very durable, we do need support, external support, and loved ones around us, support us, give us assurance and loving care, and the energy of everything that goes and flows so that when you're out of keel, you're able to grasp and jump back into the flow of things in your own way. And there's been a lot of pressure for sure with everything that's coming on and with a lot of mainstream media. Now these days, a lot of people don't even know what to believe anymore. So that's a lot of mental distancing themselves, mental clarity, and a lot of people want a quick fix in a kind of way. So that's why the rise and the continuation of medications is so relevant these days, and it's so harming to the body that people they trust the allopathic doctors, right? They've been told to trust the allopathic doctors through the years. For them to break out of that, that is a hard thing for them to do. But once they do that and they know there's support and an alternative way to actually support them, loving, caringly, and also educate them, they'll definitely overcome this. And we know one of our friends who's going through this, a few people who's going through this. They're getting off, weaning off of medication, and certain things just triggers in because of certain suppression that the medication does to the body. Yeah. So I'm really grateful again to you hear music in the background, someone's driving by. Loud music. You can party now. Yeah, so I'm really grateful for the amount of people that's here and the advocates are here, and education purposes, and that's why we're all here to help each other to bounce back up again, and be ready for whatever comes around the corner, because you're never alone.
Thank you.
Amazing.
That was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Heartfelt.
Well, you're right. It's this is the beauty of the combination of what we're talking about here: homeopath versus allopath. Doctors are not trained on diet, and which attributes to a lot of mental health through the body's mechanisms, like I just said. And they don't have what it takes to deal with mental health issues either. They listen to what the reps talked about, in the pharmaceutical industries, and the easy prescriptions that are easy to write a script. And I think, such as Quentin had said the other day, I mean, Quentin's a young man, he's about 27, and I don't think there's anybody from his original classmates that are not on antidepressants. And that's a sad thing. So how can we expect people to understand that they're in a system of oppression when their minds are already encaged, right? Thank you, Helen. So as the other chief ambassador, I'll do my little talk now. I wanted to make sure that I put in the chat, there's a little thing that I came up with for us all to have in case we need it. And I really have to stop saying you guys have to help me work on that. That's my New Year's resolution. Okay. What I've, geez, here we go. Now I'm going to drive myself crazy. So what I've put here in the chat is I've placed some mental health hotline information. First of all, a big thank you to Rena Malka with Freedom Lovers Canada. She did a recent Freedom post on Facebook where she put down an artist on I believe TikTok or Instagram. She forwarded a song called "Don't Choose Heaven" by artist X.Ari or AFSP _ LA Central Coast. I'll put that also in the chat here. The song supports at LA Central Coast, which may have gone through an experience personally and through a family member or friend recently. If that's the case, much love to them getting through to the other side of comfort and peace. I just want to put here as a little disclaimer for myself is that I'm not advocating here for any other reason than to give everyone some much needed information. here's the hard number to swallow, guys, is that every 40 seconds worldwide, somebody dies from suicide. At the end of the day, community is really the most important part of setting up humans for proper support. Such as Dr. Parveen mentioned earlier, there are so many levels and so many confusions that everyone starts to absorb all over, from the programming of the medical industry, and not to say that even the advertising from the pharmaceutical industries and the entertainment puppet masters are all keeping us busy, so that, quite frankly, the ultimate outcome is a shutdown of all the healing mechanisms of society by our brains, and immune systems are all connected. So I'll begin my talk now. Hold on one second. First of all, thank you to everyone for being here today, and those that will view this another time moving forward. I want to begin by reassuring you all that these words are mine. And if I say anything, of course, that does not include or correlate to the collective ideologies of the participants here, so be it. No apologies. Regardless of time and place for fragility of the subject at hand herein, I reassure you that there's a place in my heart that's willing to hear later on when we have our question and answer period, and also people that can reach out to us later. I can put our contact information, or my email at least, in the chat later, that if anyone here is willing to hear the reason, I would be welcome for that, to hear why someone's triggered by anything I may say here, or explain to me why they empathize with what I have to present. First of all, mental health is the main elephant in the room here today. For too long, I've certainly kept my mouth shut and my heart closed to the help that I needed when I was younger. The gifts of all the emotions that came up in me with a lesser than healthier mental health attitude or awareness meant that I was ripe for the problems which plagued me as an adult. I want to especially give a heartfelt appreciation and gratitude, of course, for Parveen and Helen, for keeping this friendship that you have both lasting for over 20 years. You know, learning from each other was really the initial reason for you to come together, and now look at us, right? All of us, all our teachers, you know, Parveen certainly with the most intellectual experience in the subject matter here today, chief ambassadors, the campaign advocates, and certainly the most important people here today, which would be the attendees. Without the student, I judge that the teacher is left with their own mental health brouhahas, wondering if they're on the right side of history or healing modalities. And it's always great to have the students who show up to learn this. And quite frankly, outside of the teachers that are here with us today, and part of the Canadian National Healing Campaign, is that we're all here to learn. This is why we're really here. To be able to take in what it is that we're all learning as a community, right? The teacher will always show up when the student is ready and willing, and the student will show up when the teacher is done or in the process of learning their greatest gifts. And it's really great to be able to be here to see that happen as we go. Now, unless there is a discourse on the various subjects here today, these gifts are wasted by the teacher if we don't have the student. When the awareness is here that someone may need some help, normally they're kept from the light necessary to help these diamonds shine, in the darkest night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is something I think that a lot of us have seen in some way, shape, or form in our lives. And today, that's really the way we're seeing what's happening here in Canada. So I love the fact that we're here. Some people might see this tonight that need to hear this, and they might see this some other time. But those numbers, for example, in the chat, are there regardless of where someone needs help. If someone needs help, those are the numbers to call. Now, without the lesson to come up, of course, we wouldn't be here in this way, and certainly I wouldn't even be here. Why? Well, today's subject, of course, for today's talk is mental health. And somehow I wanted to say mental health was something more flowery, maybe to help the pill go down a little easier for me, of course, so that I could move forward without all of you seeing the truth about me. Mental disorder used to sound a lot closer to what my reality was like, because now that I comprehend the different ways I can frame a vital message such as this in my awareness, I can learn the same lesson, right? I can recognize the same old friends, the angel and the devil that speak on both my shoulders, that I seemingly carry the world on these days. In my younger days, mental health was more prevalent as a shadow in my life than a glowing light showing me the way to my highest potential. Mental health games being the most of the reasons back then as to why I kept myself away from my greatest possibilities one day. Then, of course, contradicting myself the next day and taking the biggest chances in my life. I always knew that whenever I had these mental health challenges that would come to me in these waves, I always knew that no matter how dark that day was, that there would always be another day, and that my greatest gifts would come through those dark shadows, right? Mental health. Oh, what two words mean the most in my life and how it plays in my life. And with other people's lives being in the balance of how I show up in the world, to me, it's a cruel joke. The best way to not be that crab in the bucket that keeps pulling all the greatest teachers in my life down into the bottom of the pail. I see them close to climbing up to the highest potential that I can have in my life. But you see, the crab can't see that the ocean is right outside that pail. One quick drop from that pail and you're either in the water of the sea or the water of the boiling pot. So either way, you won't know what's on the other side. No matter how many Facebook posts you read out there or what other people are doing, if you don't take chances in your life, and mental health is one of the scariest ones, right? If I didn't have other people in my life, my story is, or would be, that I would have an easier reason for living away from everyone. Another person who obviously shows up at this time in my history, in my life, no matter how long, is asking the questions that bring me to the reason why I'm still here. Why is it? If I'm being in service to the world, and that I would judge people need me more than ever as much as I need them, then that's a good explanation as to why I need to bring these messages forth. With the Canadian National Healing Campaign, we've found a clever and obvious way of hiding in plain sight a community and a nationally based tribal council, if you'll call it that, that Canadians and ultimately the world needs to see the most today. In 2008, a lot was going on in my life, and I met two great teachers, Dr. David R. Hawkins, one of the world's most famous psychologists, psychiatrists. I'm not sure which one actually, but he's in the world of the mind for sure. He's the author of Power versus Force, The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior. And he came up with over 30 years of research of the calibration scales of consciousness. So for the first time in history, we were now able to combine and recognize the science of kinesiology or muscle testing to see how that we could calibrate the weakness or strength of a human muscle based on whether the body's innate field of consciousness was activated, and the subject would be able to see in their muscle testing through kinesiology a positive or negative response to the stimuli. So the book Power versus Force explains a lot. Dr. Hawkins also co-authored a book with Dr. Linus Carl Pauling, the Nobel laureate who discovered vitamin C, and together they co-wrote Orthomolecular Psychiatry that determined for the first time in science that diet plays the most important role in someone's well-being, with mental health being a direct result. Now, I came up with a personally experienced acronym for mental, and here it is. I wanted to put down in different ways, guys, that mental meant something to myself in my own experience. I broke them down. So here's some important keys that I need for the balance of my mental health. Are you guys ready? I just have to, right? Okay, so here it is. So the M for mental. M is, for me, movement. Your body is meant to move. If it doesn't, it atrophies. Just look at someone who's bedridden for over just a week in a hospital. Their muscles deteriorate. You don't even recognize them anymore. The toxins in our bodies need to leave the body by being squeezed out of the cells. Why do you think babies like being bounced? Why do kids like jumping on the bed? They inherently understand that they need to shake things up to feel a little bit better and to keep healthy. Lymphatic fluids in the body are 2 to 3 times more voluminous than blood in the system. However, the doctor is rarely asked for a test of the lymphatic fluids. Lymphatics are a one-way valve network all over your body that remove waste. When you're in a state of movement, those valves open and shut and allow the lymphatics to go in both directions. If you're moving, effectively cleaning out the system, almost like a broom, right? So that's why, hands down, trampolines and their smaller cousins, rebounders, are the best exercise, right? The reason I also say that, just as a caveat here, is that I also advocate for cellular size or rebounders because they're really great for home and travel. If they're really great for you to be able to bring around, there's lots of different companies that have them around so that they're lightweight and they can be brought with them for home or travel. So the happy hormone endorphins are released, and you really only need about 10 minutes on a rebounder to bounce compared to a 1-hour cardio session in the gym. So that is M for movement. E for energy. To keep our minds on the more upbeat, positive side, it's important to keep the body, mind, and soul all the tools necessary so that they create and harness energy without your input of food all the time. They want to make us think that it's always about the food and drink that you put in your body that gives you the energy. It's not that. They want you to overcompensate and they want you to consume, right? So here's what you do. When you're sluggish, that means there's a depletion of the necessary energy stores in your system. So society has endless ways of tapping your energy so that you seemingly need a quick fix or pick me up all the time. That's why you have a plethora of energy drinks on the market today, coffee shops in every corner, and cannabis stores in every community. All of these inputs are all based on adrenaline highs. So whether it's a caffeine hit or a taurine smash, chemicals are constantly being introduced into your body to jack up your system into thinking it's under attack. It's trying to get rid of these chemicals, which jacks up your metabolism. Therefore, it's boosting your adrenaline on a minute-to-minute, hourly, and even on a daily basis. Now, adrenaline is handy when you need it for extreme strength, attention, or stamina, such as when you're being attacked by an animal in the jungle, like the old days, fighting in a war, or leading rallies against your government. Today, many of us are stagnant in our work, social lives, and exercise routines, so we need to grab the closest hit because we have no time. Ways of benefiting your energy levels are meditation, breathing, exercising, of course, getting a good night's sleep, lowering your stress levels, cutting down on electronics in your hand or on a TV screen. Get it especially out of the hands of children, because as soon as you give that electronic to a child, their brains are triggered into the same receptors as cocaine and heroin. Why do you think kids want that phone? They knew exactly who they were putting in the hands of, right? It's really difficult for us to go to bed at night and turn off our phones. Really great way is also to listen to calm music, find a way to garden or plant flowers, hang out in nature, and start reading more books on energy, earthing, and grounding. Just getting outside in nature and sitting your butt on the dirt, on sand, on grass will do that. A simple and effective breathing technique is to inhale for 8 seconds, hold for 8 seconds, and exhale for 8 seconds. If you can get up to 8 seconds, great. I can do 12 to 15 seconds now. And of course, if you look at it this way, the slower you breathe, the longer you live. Okay, look at a dog, for example. A dog breathes very fast. How many years does a dog live compared to a turtle? Turtles can live for over hundreds of years, right? Because they breathe so slow, because of the oxygen intake. The more you hold on to it, the more you retain. Try sitting first when you do these breathing techniques, because sometimes you can get a little bit lightheaded. And then you can advance by walking while you do this for 15 to 20 minutes. You'll not only shift your energy, but you will improve your lymphatic drainage of the toxins in your body. Please keep in mind that if the body is constantly under pressure of an adrenaline reaction, that a crash will occur and happen. Panic attacks and injuries can then happen, and it's called adrenal fatigue syndrome. And Parveen, when you talk about the tissue salts later, I'd love for you to come up with a percentage of Canadians today, of North Americans, whichever research figure you may have, that tells us how many people are under the gun of adrenal fatigue syndrome. There's a lot. The next letter in mental is N, which is neutral. So many times we've heard about masters, gurus, nuns, or monks who talk about the middle path, taking or not often taking a position in life that has everything to do with balance. Always take the middle path is an age-old sentiment that we've heard many times. Shamans regularly talk about the path to shamanism as being on the knife's edge. Stray but a bit too far to one side of the equation, or stand too hard on a position, and you can witness many oppositionary forces that are out to dispel what you believe in and what you say, which of course then creates emotionalities, which create biochemical reaction in our bodies that can sometimes not only affect us right now, but we can actually carry those into another lifetime if we ever talk about karma. As an example, in the last 27 months, many Canadians have had to choose what they believe in regards to the level of what they will stand against or support or acquiesce and comply with, all without considering all the factors they have to face. At the end of the day, being open to dialogue, asking questions while truly listening is a great stress release. Simply telling anyone, forcing loaded questions or tyranny upon your person that they would do well to stop for proper questions and be open to weigh both sides of an argument can change a relationship completely. If they do not, you've done what you can, so you can release your responsibility to the shit show. Stand back and watch the meltdown, because that person obviously will not usually be conscious of their responsibility in this moment. Not having to prove a point or necessarily battle for the sake of an argument can significantly diminish the stress of the situation, enable you to make more value judgments for yourself, and may even show you deeper into other people's true colors, temperament, or emotions. Remember, you're the boss, and no one can force you into a decision based on the illusion of there not being enough time for anyone to weigh all options in a life moment. So close your eyes, but for a moment, take a deep breath and picture the combative person in front of you as a monkey eating a banana. It works every time. The next letter in the acronym is T for tenacity. Never give up. Whether you die standing for something or die after living a life when you've tried your best, always keep going. In history, too many people have faltered or given up just before they've achieved their goals or missions in this life. Look at Nikola Tesla, one of this century's most prolific inventors. He had a really hard time with self-esteem, and as tenacious as he was, depression and old age finally got the best of him. Truth be told, the agents of tyranny in that time and now today controlled his mind and destroyed his character and used him for his brilliant humanitarian work. Truth be told, and we know this for sure today, that most of today's brilliant and biggest scientific achievements are based on Tesla's work. And once he died, lonely in a New York hotel room, shadow government spooks and scientific geniuses waited until they could steal his ideas and move society into a secretive and advanced world, mostly for the rise of monetary force and not true power. You see, the physical body is left behind, but your soul never dies. It goes into a different astral dimension and very often prepares itself for another round of this earthly testing ground or another planet with a different lesson you have to learn. What is referred to, and most people know as karma, has to be worked out in this lifetime, and that is what we are as humans are here for. Not only are we expected to recognize our deepest needs as living souls, but we also have to realize that our biggest lessons are from other people. Most often, family that are supposed to be harder to deny in our lives than anybody else, of course. We have these micro agreements with people. They're an excellent way to build personal or business relationships and are an easy way to forge ahead with your greatest dreams and cut down on how many times people use you or deceive you. Micro agreements are great. At the end of the day, living a life leading with a closed heart would have the negative influence in society succeed in taking you away from the source of your brilliance and heart-centered possibilities. Be neutral as much as possible until calmer heads prevail and you move ahead with small beginnings into directions you are most comfortable with or not, but at least you know why you are. Nikola Tesla is here with us right now because angels always eavesdrop. They always tell you it's for your own good, and they always have a sense of humor before we do. A, for accountability. Too many times in the world, people are late for appointments, relationships end by being ghosted. You find your new car has a dent in the side panel that's never been there before, but somebody left you that while you went to the store. Some people leave their dog's poop bags in your driveway on garbage day. Social media is wrought with trolls and negative people who find nothing better to do but hurl insults and hate. They have a computer screen that separates them from the reality that another people is getting attacked by your words, all because they forget that what comes around goes around. Energy in the universe never goes away or dies out. It's simply redeployed into another form and is often sent back out into the universe how it was given or shown to another person. Most often, the one who sent the energy out in the first place. In other words, you've heard the term, that person is my mirror. That refers to the fact that we are meant to visit some of our deepest lessons through someone who triggers us. If we can get to a place where we're not triggered and can simply learn what causes us pain and discomfort and look at the reasons why, then we can move ahead without burden in our lives any longer. The situation or person holds no more charge in your life. So, how can you be the best person you can be in the world? Always show up the way you say you're going to show up. Hold the door open for someone else. Surprise people by saying hello. Wave the person to take that parking spot because you know there's going to be a better one that will come along. Give someone the change in your pocket because even if they're not homeless, you have extra. You will always have extra, and they have a story that you don't necessarily want to experience. Trust me. Whether you have a chance to show up and serve the best version of yourself to the world, you are showing that part of you exudes what's called Christ consciousness. Without being Jesus Christ and going through what he did in his ultimate arrival and departure in the earth plane, you can embody the spirit of his teachings and way of being. Christ consciousness is what will transform this planet quicker than any other way. Show up the right way, make your mistakes, and own up to them. Character and accountability is what the new economy will look like. Showing up to help someone move out of their apartment with all their life's belongings instead of not showing up is worth more than money can buy. Be accountable to your words and show people that you can be trusted. Your mental health will improve, not only your own, but the collective human mind. Whether you realize it or not, everyone, at least subconsciously, knows all your deepest secrets and what you're hiding about yourself. So open up to people. Do your best to stop lying to yourself, and people will stop messing up your life. You'll see. Be open and show that heart of yours no matter how much you've been hurt. We've all been down that road. And finally, L for liberty. Nothing takes away mental health faster than the oppression and tyranny of the mind and spirit. I haven't mentioned souls because our soul doesn't change because of the oppression and tyranny that we're experiencing on a human level, right? Put people in a situation of taking their or their family's liberty away and you've made an enemy for life. All the societal controls that we've seen imposed on humankind, certainly in the last 27 months, but decades in the making, has brought us to a time where people are killing themselves in record numbers. If not outwardly pulling the trigger of their own gun, they're running to the liquor stores and cannabis retailers to numb the scourge of humanity that they can't name, seemingly fix, or point to an instigator. Gyms, for parading your glutes out there, and churches with their promise of salvation to a higher power are no longer deemed a necessary input for the people. Thank you, government. Finding ways to exercise our freedoms are in abundance if we're willing to ask the questions once we have the answers right in our faces every day. So, taking charge of our own healing and well-being is how we discover our very own brand of liberty. Once we've realized the nirvana of that reality in our distortion, then we can set up our sights on attracting like-minded folks who support us in our decisions for a better life, teeming with all manner of liberty at every turn. Can't remember the author that said this, but give me liberty or give me death seems to carry a lot of weight in the world today in the grand scheme of mental health for many historical figures that shaped our world. So look inside at how that looks for you. Thank you.
That was good, Lamont. Thank you. That was very interesting breakup of the what mental means to you. That was awesome. How long did it take you to do that?
I don't know. How long did I just talk for?
Did anyone time him? I didn't time him.
Jeez,
No, that was very well done. Appreciate that, you know, and I know you're speaking from your heart and from your experience as well, and that's what we're all here for. But that was a good one. Mental. Hey Q, remember mental every time. Mental.
right? So,
Well,
Good job, Lamont.
hi, thank you so much. Thank you so
good
much.
job.
So here's the thing. Does anybody have any questions for myself or Helen before we go to our campaign advocates?
Sorry, I don't have any question, but I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you, Helen, for inviting me to this great session. And I was driving and I was listening to you guys. That's interesting. Everyone is involved. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Notion. It's great to see you coming in. Oh, I pulled you in. Yeah.
There's nothing better than listening to mental health, options and answers when you're driving in the middle of rush hour traffic. There's nothing like it, right?
Mental balance.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So Parveen, what do you think? Do you think we'd like to have our campaign advocates say a couple of words for themselves, or would you like to have a couple of words before we do the campaign advocates and then a question and answer? How do you feel? Are you ready and rocking for some tissue salt explanations and anything else that you want to explain now? You're also on mute, by the way.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Parveen, you lovely person, you.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
I mean, tissue salt, we can talk about it at the end.
Okay.
But if you have any questions, I think you had one question about adrenaline or epinephrine about
Tissue salt and
stress.
adrenaline fatigue.
Adrenal fatigue syndrome, I think, is something that would be good to say a couple of words about, or actually talk about, how prevalent that is in society. We know how many people are on pharmaceutical drugs for depression, but there's a never-ending array of different swords. The death by 1,000 cuts, shall I say? Right. Talk a little bit about adrenal fatigue syndrome.
So adrenal fatigue syndrome does not fall into category of mental disorder. Generally, a stress is not falling into mental disorders, because a stress is a form of fight and flight response to the situation in order to calibrate yourself. So, and it's happening, during the day and in the different forms. But when it comes to adrenal fatigue, it means there is a chronic stress. The person has been under chronic stress, that we call it distress. So fight and flight response, again, everything that created in the body is in a form of emotion, is your survival. So, but when it becomes chronic, then it's falling into category of disease or disorders. So for adrenal fatigue, we have beautiful, wonderful homeopathic treatments. We have great homeopathic remedies for that. Personally, even though I'm a classical homeopath, but I do a lot of pathway treatments, the homeopathic pathways. I mean, the body's pathways. So brain pathways with all the brain glands, brain's adrenal. This is the main treatment for adrenal fatigues is to address this pathway. This pathway is if it's chronically affected, it's going to be blocked or exhausted, or it needs support. It needs to be cleansed. It needs to be detoxified. It needs to be nourished. This pathway, brain adrenal, is a big, a very, very crucial pathway. So in adrenal fatigues, this pathway should be supported, should be cleansed and nourished so well. So I think Helen might know about these pathways. We do a lot with homotoxicology, a lot of different homotoxicology around. So this pathway, again, should be addressed in adrenal fatigue. And definitely there are a lot of minerals. I don't do any treatments without tissue salts. So because mineralizations is the key to detoxifications, because detoxification, for example, or drainage takes a giant toll from the body if there is no enough minerals. The body is going to be minus. So that's why detoxification is very, sometimes is very dangerous. If they do it, if somebody's doing it in a wrong way. And myself, I'm very conservative, even though detoxification is one of the main treatments I do, but I'm very conservative with it. First, I shower the person by minerals, then I do detoxifications. The same thing with adrenal fatigue. So I give them enough tissue salts again, minerals, homeopathic minerals. Then I do the homotoxicology to open up the pathways. Definitely, I always work with the classical homeopathic remedies in order to bring alignment and balance into the different dimensions of human body. So it's as simple as that.
Amazing. Here's a question that an ignorant young man as myself would actually ask. So how do you do tissue salts? Is it the same as a homeopathic remedy where you put it under the tongue, or do you sprinkle on your asparagus before you have dinner? What are
tissue salts? They're not single remedies. They are diluted, but they are not potentized. So the difference between tissue salts and homeopathic potentized remedies is that they are 3x, 6x, 12x are diluted, but they are not. We call them biochemical homeopathic minerals. So they have different, they work on the structures of the body, they work on the enzymatic, they work on the biological processes, and there are only 12. I can share this with you. When the body dies, if after cremations, for example, the body turns into ashes, only these 12 minerals left. Only these 12 minerals left. These 12 minerals that they are in tissue salts. They are in the ashes of the human body. So that's how important these 12 minerals are in structures to keep the structure healthy. So that's why these minerals are very, very crucial and essential to be given for any treatments from the beginning to the end. And sometimes they should be on it. For myself, I'm always on tissue salts, one way, one or another, something.
well,
So it depends. It depends on the situation, but I always prescribe myself at least one tissue salt a month.
it's almost like the 12 commandments, the 12 tissue salts. I mean, I want to get on these salts as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Eyeballs, wake me up at night, or I'm gonna do them all. Helen, I'm sure you're gonna be able to put me on this, right? You've got lots of tissue salts. Okay, all right, we're doing this. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Are we done?
Yeah, they're life-saving.
Yeah.
They're life savings.
Now, speaking of life-saving, There's a really good lady here. She's one of our campaign advocates from the East Coast. Natasha would love to say a couple of words
Yes.
on a subject dear to her heart, mental health. Natasha, take yourself off of mute and bring us what you got.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I just wanted to start to say that I'm really excited to be here. I've actually been taking notes the whole time that Parvin was talking, Lamont was talking, and Helen was talking, so I will have questions for you guys later. First of all, I wanted to say that a little bit brave of me for some things I'm about to say, because it is taking myself and my own personal issues and kind of putting them out there, essentially for the world to see, whoever is going to come across this video. But you know, I'm happy to do so because I think there's not enough people talking about mental health issues. They're not talking about it. It's still such a taboo subject, and it just boggles my mind why, you know? So about 2.5 years ago, I met Lamont and Helen through the freedom movement. And to be honest, I think we all manifested each other because it's just like something happened in 2020 where all of a sudden the people that needed to leave my life, not all of them, but some of them, they left my life. But I also attracted people that I needed in my life that are like-minded and people that understood me and what I was saying and have the same drive and passion for mental health and for freedom and for, you know, like living a good life. So I can honestly say I think we manifested each other, which is, you know, fabulous. I got friends, and you introduced me to Parvin and Mano. I already know Q2 through the freedom movement. And I guess we can start off where Mano was talking at the beginning. I just wrote a couple things down here. One of the reasons I think that people are getting on pharmaceuticals for certain issues is because we've become very lazy as a society. It's like, here's a pill. You have heartburn, here's a pill. You're depressed, here's a pill. You have stomach issues, here's a pill. But what is the reason? Why do you have heartburn? Why are you having stomach issues? Why are you experiencing such things? So I'll just go back to about the last 4 years of my life where I was in a car accident. And before the car accident, I had a promising career in corrections. I was about to start a new job in Amos, Quebec in corrections. And January 18th, we had the accident. January 24th, we had the accident, and I was supposed to start work in April. That day, everything changed. Everything. All of a sudden, I had herniated discs in my neck and my back, and I lost feeling in parts of my left leg. I couldn't go to the gym anymore. My brain was foggy. I have all these health issues that are now still part of my life. So unfortunately, I did end up on pharmaceuticals, and I'm being very open with that because I want to be as transparent as I can. I don't want to sit here and say that I'm all natural everything when I'm not. But at times of desperation, I can understand why people get on pharmaceuticals. Previous to that, a few years before the accident, I actually ended up on antidepressants. And that was just, the antidepressants was actually from like a relationship I was in. Someone telling me, I think you're depressed, you should do this, you need to get medication. So I did it. And now I'm looking back and I'm like, I wasn't depressed. I was in an unhealthy relationship. It was trauma. So now this leads me to where I am today with having body pain. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and I have ADHD, MDD, like all these different things. And I'm like, why me? Why is this happening? You know, and then I think to myself, I'm like, these things are happening because it's trauma. So I end up on pharmaceuticals for pain, and I don't want to be on pharmaceuticals. You know, I'm desperately trying to come off of them. I've been asking Lamont and Helen questions off and on, mostly Helen for the last couple of years on different, you know, natural remedies for this, that, and the other thing. And I just want to say that I realize now, the last 4 years, I've been working very hard on myself. And I realize now that people don't actually have all these issues. It's trauma. It's unhealed trauma, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, it's emotional, it's financial, it's all trauma. So I started, I guess, using myself as my own project. Essentially, that's what I started doing. I started writing and I started saying, why do you feel like this? Why is this? Why is that? I started writing about myself to myself. I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. So after meeting, like, especially Dr. Parvin, like, I loved your speech earlier. And, you know, I really realized how many people are lazy. The doctors say, here's a pill. They take a pill. All the pill does is it just numbs whatever's there. You're not actually dealing with your trauma. You're not going back to that situation and facing it head on. You're taking a pill. It's almost like the society we live in today is that they want people to believe that if you take a pill, you're better. You're not better, you're worse. I'm telling you this from experience, that since I started pain medication from my accident, I have had nausea, like more days than not. I've had different kinds of headaches. I've had issues sleeping. I've actually been to the point where it's actually messed with my insides and I've been vomiting. And I'm like, this is not something I want, because what's going to happen next is they want to put me on more medication for my stomach and for this and that. I'm like, no, we can't go that way. We need to go back. So I'm essentially trying to wean myself off of these medications. And I'm trying to find different ways that I can heal myself, which like naturally. And Lamont, you actually mentioned something before. It was the M in mental for movement. And I know myself and a lot of people with fibromyalgia or autoimmune disorders, we don't move enough. And I realize that, but it's also, you know, sometimes the pain is so much, you can't get out of bed some days. But I have started moving more. I have started doing like different things to, you know, take back that control, which is, it's empowering as well, you know. Here you're relying on a bottle of pills and the next thing you know, you're like, no, I don't need that. I know I don't need that, and I'm going to get away from that. That's not my friend anymore. Okay, I never intended it for it to be long-term anyway, but it's 2.5 years now. Well, 3 years I'm on it, and it's go time. It has to go. So it was interesting you mentioned something like that. Another thing too is about the energy. People with fibromyalgia and depression, anxiety, major depressive disorder, which I was diagnosed with, we don't have a lot of energy. You know, like there's lots of times the energy is in my mind. I want to do this, 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 and this, but it's the movement that I need to do to be able to acquire the grounding and the earthing that you talked about, to be able to actually get out there and do it. You have to be in the right headspace. So I just wanted to mention here too, I believe it was Parvin mentioned about fight or flight. I've lived my whole life in fight or flight, and I didn't realize that until I'm 38 years old. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that leads me to, we'll just connect the dots here to the adrenal fatigue syndrome. I often have like adrenaline of the mind, and it's actually from trauma. So that just coincides with what you guys were saying about how it's all connected in the brain. If something happens to you mentally, it's going to show physically. And that's what I believe is happening with me from my accident, because it really took a mental toll on me. I lost my career as a corrections officer. I couldn't go back in my last career working in construction. So I haven't worked since my accident. That alone makes a person feel like unaccomplished and lazy, and people might look at you as lazy, which causes even more of a mental impact, you know, because you don't want people to think certain things about you that's not true. So I definitely can connect the two, that I was in a position before the current has just taken that much more away from me, that it's, you know, it is really hard mentally. It's hard not to work. It's hard not to have a routine or a schedule, get up every day and go do that job, you know, whether you love it or you hate it. Hopefully you love it. But it's hard to not have that routine and not have that structure. It's something I crave. It's something I need. It's something I want. So I'm so happy that you guys accepted me as someone with C.N.H.C, because I do have the passion to now talk about myself and my traumas. You know, I have that passion, because if I can teach people anything from my pain and my trauma and things I've done in trial and error, I want to educate people. I want to tell everybody that you need to get healthy, but it starts from within. It starts from you. There's no magic pill. There's absolutely no magic pill you can take that's going to heal you. And in our modern day medicine with pharmaceuticals, there's no doctor out there that I feel really wants you to heal yourself, because it's cha-ching, cha-ching with every time you fill that prescription, right? So I think being a part of the Canadian National Health Campaign is making me grow as a person, and I'm learning it and I'm healing as I'm doing this. And I just think it's absolutely phenomenal. I wanted to mention also something that was really dear to my heart. And I think, Lamont, you remember, you and Helen, I was going to do a speech at one of the rallies in Toronto in late 2020, I believe. I just remember it was really cold out. Anyway, we ended up getting shut down, so I didn't ever get to do the speech, but I still have the speech that I wrote, and it was about something that really bothered me about this COVID pandemic. What really bothered me was, why was it okay to call COVID a pandemic, saying that at that time, now I don't remember the exact date, but at that time, there had been 27,000 deaths, according to the government, about COVID. 27,000. My speech included in there that at the same time frame the government was talking about the deaths from COVID, there had been 21,000 deaths in Canada. Why was that not a pandemic? Why was that not talked about? Why was one okay and the other one wasn't? So during that time, that's what really I got passionate about mental health, is I was seeing the effects of what the tyrannical government was doing to our people, to myself, to my friends, to my mom, and it made me angry. Why is nobody talking about 21,000 people that died from suicide and mental health issues? Why is nobody talking about it? So that was in my speech that I never got to give, but that was my main point. It bothered me for, weeks and weeks and weeks. And I just wanted to make mention of that I think that something snapped in me at that time. And I was like, wait a second. Everything that is happening right now is creating mental disorders in people. They're making us sicker by manipulation of the mind. And how many people are allowing these things to happen that are not educated? They don't see it. Most people don't see it until you mention it to them and say, this is manipulation. This is causing people to have depression and anxiety and can't sleep at night, and they're having all these issues. So yeah, I never got to give that speech, but I'll have to look it up one of these times. Yeah, so I guess the last thing I had to say goes back to what Parvin was saying about how the manifestation of your thoughts create things. Okay, I'm a firm believer in that. Your thoughts create things. And I actually had this explained to me from my therapist just recently, and it made so much sense. I said, my whole life I've lived in fight or flight mode. It's just been since I was a kid. So she said, ironically enough, the brain tries to protect itself. The brain thinks it's protecting itself to point out all of your trauma. It's like, okay, Natasha, there's a Dodge Charger. That was the car that you were in a car accident with. And then my heart starts pounding. I start feeling it when I see a Dodge Charger, which was my most favorite vehicle ever. And I realized that my brain was doing that. It's like, it's not the Dodge Charger that did it to me. It was an accident. But that's what my brain reminds me. There's a Dodge Charger and my heart starts pounding. That car pulled out too fast, my heart starts pounding. So it's like everywhere I go, I see danger for myself. But I realize now that's in my trauma therapy, that's essentially what I'm working on, is the things that I identify as danger and fear. I actually have to face it and talk about it and deal with it in order for it to subside, instead of suppressing it with medication, suppressing it with not talking about it, suppressing it by allowing, because I'm consciously aware I'm doing this now. So suppressing it by allowing myself to say that Dodge Charger is dangerous. Well, no, the Dodge Charger that was dangerous doesn't exist anymore. And, I was just associating these different things. So I just wanted to make mention, it's very real, for people to create things in their mind that causes these mental health issues, these, you know, these fears. So yeah, I guess I'll wrap it up there. I might have talked a little bit longer than my 8 minutes, but yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say here. And I look forward to working with all of you and our viewers. I'm so grateful that you guys are here to listen to us, and you know, we're doing this from the heart. And I welcome you all to come back and ask as many questions as you want, even if it's me. I'll give it back to you now, Lamont.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, because it's, and I can see in my crystal ball that someday that speech may still find the light of day. Because I think it's a very simple way of explaining to people the hypocrisy of today.
Yes.
What we have to realize, especially when you're looking at American TV, is that in Canada, it's not the same when it comes to pharmaceutical advertising. I think there is actually a suppression of pharmaceutical advertising on TV in Canada, but in the US, it's literally, if there's 4 or 5 commercials between a show break, and at least 2 to 3 of those ads are pharmaceutical based. And if you notice when you watch one, they literally talk about the prescription or the medication and what it does for you for a quarter of the ad, and 3/4 of the ad is talking about the symptoms or side effects that you're going to experience. Now, what happens when you listen to the next one is they say the same thing. They know how to group them together in a way where it affects the same pathways and the same memory in your system, so that when you are on a pharmaceutical drug and you begin that trail, that the side effect based on that first pharmaceutical will get you on a second pharmaceutical. And for example, my dad, who passed away 2 months into the injection because of his issues around cancer, is that he was on about 35 different medications by the time he got to that point. So that's what they do to you. They'll just finish you off. Because I remember watching a testimonial once on somebody, and they had discovered the benefit of water in their life. And this man broke down in tears when he could explain the fact that he didn't have to get up so early in the morning to start taking all the pills that he had to take in a day. He didn't have to think about which food to eat with what, and where he had to eat on an empty stomach take the pill with an empty stomach, and he couldn't do this activity, and he couldn't. And in modern day slavery, that affected his libido, his energy, his sleep, his weight gain. That's the thing, is that these pharmaceutical drugs do take you down. So I appreciate you opening up, Natasha, and talking about some of these darker issues and stuff in your past.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment there, like you were saying about your dad. And I remember a couple of years ago, like it was more right after the accident. It was like, here, take this pill and this pill. And then it was like, okay, you need these 2 more. At one time, I was taking 13 pills a day, and I was 34 years old, taking 13 pills a day plus my vitamins. So I had literally, I would like a handful of pills, and it's just down the hatch, right? Like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just craziness. This is absolutely ludicrous. Like, because you take this, you have these side effects, so they give you a pill to counteract that one. Then you take another one, and then they cause you to have other side effects, so they give you another one. So that's how it just started adding up. And at one time, at 34 years old, I'm taking 13 pharmaceuticals, like painkillers and blood pressure and headache pills, stomach pill. It was just, it's crazy. So now it's, you know, I'm really wide awake. I'm more awake now than I've ever been in my life. And I told you I kind of woke
Excellent.
up when I was 10, especially in the last two and a half years. This has really opened my eyes.
Oh, hold on. I got a news update coming in. I have a news flash that says that Quentin Cole has the ability to say a couple of words because his baby is down for a minute. Q, thank you,
idea.
Natasha, by the way.
Coming to you live, here from the newsroom, here from the basement, seeking refuge from the tears and from the fears. Yes,
Good
yes, thank you.
wording.
Thank you, Lamont, and thank you everybody for being on the panel today. The weather is beautiful, and we're here to I just wanted to say thank you, Natasha, and thank you, Lamont, and everybody for hosting the shindig. And this is so crucial right now. And I had no idea about your car accident and how it just, you had your whole life ready for you, and then that happened for you, and it totally took you out of that world and it shifted you into a completely new alignment. And I thought that would be that's such a great analogy, where I find that when it comes to mental health, it is easy. And you're saying that we've gotten lazy, and the technology right now is at a point where they've mapped everything. I find that when I look into the field of medicine, everything is mapped out. The world has been charted. Everybody knows where everybody lives. It's all on Google Maps, just like our anatomy. And it seems like there's no more new possibilities. Everything is known, and the things that are unknown, it's just because we have the lack of technology. And I think that what that breeds is then not only a hyper state of anxiety within an individual's psyche, because now you feel that until you get a diagnosis, until you find the right doctor, until you've, checked all of those balances that you feel they have prescribed, you will never be well. And you'll always have this constant fear that you won't be able to figure out your own life. And so I think that really where the advancements of all these comforts, there comes a huge risk right now of the individualization practices, where we're not going within ourselves, asking ourselves, is this a healthy job to be in? Am I with a stable partner? Should I put up with my dad or my mom's insults or my cousins, or whatever? And I think that what occurs is that there's a docilation that happens. And then, of course, you get the suppressive foods. I'll just say the word suppressive, meaning electron dampening. You have mineral deficiency, suppression of information. And on top of that, I like to say we're in a frequency starved time. I was looking at a stat, for example, this is totally off deep end, but in the 1960s, you look at all the different varieties of colors that were prescribed to cars, to your furniture, to your decorations inside your home. It's all starting to go gray and white. As the years are going on, the colors, we have so many on the spectrum, but already there's almost like a zeroing in on what is now acceptable to see. And I think that's a great kind of analogies. Right now, we're being whitewashed and grayed into this idea that this is what health is, and that you must never be ill. You must never have a sick day. You have to always be running and going at a hyper speed. And if you are injured, and I'll just say a story, my knee swelled up for a good 2 months, and I was constantly being told, Q, you're 27 years old. Why are you injured? You should be at your prime. You should be fit, and you should be, and all of these things. And, hey, come on, toughen up, be a man about it and keep on moving. And I find that this is kind of pushing itself with every individual, that if you're not in a constant state of going, you're not healthy, or, you got to take this so it'll numb you down so you can just keep on going. And I really think that a big process with mental health is that the mind is constantly running its track, and we're so fast paced, we're not slowing down. And it's almost like the world of slow is our greatest enemy in this time. And I think even right now with our what's happened in lockdown, we needed to be slow about what was happening, but our governments, our mandates and laws were just getting passed and pushed without any foresight. All of these vaccinations, they don't have any of the stats to back up what they're doing. And it really is madness. But there's the last thing I'd say is that I heard this a little bit ago. Anxiety is the fear that everything in the past will repeat itself. And depression is the fear that everything in the future will be the same. And so I think right now we're kind of in this schizo state where a lot of people are living in both hemispheres, afraid of what's behind them and terrified that whatever they do, it won't change. But that's kind of where the important thing of being an individual, and just every morning, you know exactly what needs to be done. And everybody has that power. We all have the blueprints. And as homeopathy, as you're describing, you can get into this healing blueprint. It doesn't take anything for the body to get that chaos, to resonate with it and figure out what needs to be ordered. But that requires, I think, a trust within yourself, having a higher power, and understanding that you have a community that is there to support you. And when we say that we're depressed, it's not, oh, well, you need to go on medication, such as, you're saying your partner would say to you. But not only are you depressed, people will then, your friends will say, well, I'll give you space, or I'll be there for you. But I really do think right now, being slow, having a community, and just recognizing that you don't need to be Mr. or Mrs. Wonder or Superman. Like, you are more than welcome to have a hole and stay in there if you need to. But I'm running a mile a minute here because I know at any moment I'm gonna hear a wah. So I hope that was helpful and insightful. So that's what I have to say for right now. And I am so happy that this is on the panel, and I cannot wait to hear more from our spokesman and from everybody here. It's such a joy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and wrapped it up.
Amazing.
Very well.
Amazing to Natasha and Hugh, both of you. Amazing.
Nice to see you guys. Just like I said, there's no script. It's like, I love reading from a script sometimes because I want to make sure there's the things that have been in my head for so long find an escape. But out of a 15-minute speech or topic, I know there's a couple of minutes of stuff that I just put in there that is really great to just be able to throw in every once in a while. I want to reassure you guys that your input is valid, because you've seen us since the beginning of all this. This is a work in progress. We're going to see how this is going to translate into the future, because these topics are all what we need right now. And we're going to find how we all integrate the teachings, because it's not going to be just about the Bioquantum Healing Academy that Parveen has worked so long on. It's not just going to be about Dr. Manal with Bowen therapy. It's not going to be just about it's going to be music, it's going to be dinner parties, no matter what these lockdowns look like.
A good one.
Right. It's going to be dancing. It's going to be our get-togethers on Friday nights. And this is going to be for the future. The fact that we're talking about this in a world right now where everybody wants to talk about the latest disaster, is that we're dealing with solutions. And I think that is a recurring theme right now with not only the freedom movement, but the conventional society that is tired of hearing the same narrative. What are the solutions about? Where are we going to get to that point? And I think I've never seen, once again, a show where we've got esteemed, intellectual, trained individuals such as Dr. Parveen and Dr. Manal, speaking with people that are all at different grades of understanding the subject matter. So I just wanted to say thank you so much to both the campaign advocates and Chief Ambassador Helen and myself, Dr. Parveen, and of course the attendees that are here tonight. Parveen, did you have anything that you wanted to finish with before we offer a question and answer, maybe to a couple of the people that were here tonight, before we wrap up for the evening, and speak about the closing remarks and our next announcement? Do you have anything to say about that?
About next announcement?
Sure. Actually, after you have a couple of words to say about anything that you might have missed, or that you want to make sure that
I missed a lot. I missed a lot because I didn't get actually to my actual points. Yeah, so I think I did not.
Do you want to go through those tonight before we leave? Because we are early.
I don't know if everybody's ready for that, but something that I would like to talk about depression and also suicide, and also about the emotions that are created in the body. So if you have time, I can go over some of those points.
What do you think,
Um,
Parveen? 10 minutes, 15 minutes? What do you think?
Yeah, maybe that would be enough. Because I simplified everything for the public, then these are the main points for the public. I would like to go through some of them. In regards to, I already talked about the emotions of depression, the hypostate and hyperstate of the depression and anxiety, which are the both are two poles of one phenomena. So these are the survival kind of symptoms, and they should never be suppressed by suppressive medications, but they should be encouraged, supported by right tools and right system of medicine. So when it comes to, for example, depression, everybody I think knows that the definition of depression. So it's a severe chronic recession in the bodies when that happens. If it doesn't matter in acute cases or chronic cases. So it's the main thing is the whole body. When we get into, let me just get into orthomolecular nutrition at this part. The whole body is a tank of nutrients. The earth body is a full tank of nutrients that it has to be full on regular basis. So anytime that there is a kind of shortage of or deficiency of any nutrients, something will show up. One symptoms will show up. So in depression, it's the meaning of it, the definition is a severe chronic recession in the nutrients, in the raw materials in the body. So when there is a significant decline in materials and biological activities, when there is no enough materials, all the biological activities are going to slow down. Who does this? The brain does it. The brain is the commander and is going to slow down the body in order to keep you alive. If the body in a state of depression, goes normally, goes normally the way that is normally at the healthy state, is using up the nutrients, because the body is always have a reserved nutrients for emergency cases, for such as trauma, bleeding, like severe infections, accident, convalescences, or surgeries. For emergency cases, always the body intelligently reserve nutrients, raw materials somewhere. But in the case of these emotions, if the body is going to use it up in a regular manner, then it's going to use up all the reserved funds, reserved nutrients, and the body is going to be in more chaos. That's why what the brain does is to slow all the biological functions, all the biological processes to go slow, such as enzymes, hormones, neurotransmitters, making new cells, making new connective tissues to repair, muscles, bones, and even healing and regeneration. It slows down in order to save the reserved materials for emergency cases. So at this point, we have to understand why the body does this. Then when we understand it profoundly, then we do not go, we do not suppress that with suppressive medication. We're gonna support it. It's not, I'm not saying that encouraging means to be more depressed. No, encourage the emotions because it's keeping you alive. But you have to, as I said earlier, you have to neutralize the charge of the emotions because it makes you minus more than before. So this alteration between these two states, as I said, is always the body wants to bring you into homeostasis and balance and equilibrium. So at this point is called survival mechanism that we can see it in so many different physical conditions such as hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism. These are not a disease, none of them is a disease. Both are the extreme poles of one phenomenon. Both are the symptoms of one disease. So as I mentioned earlier, all the mental disorders are combination of hypoactivities and hyperactivities, no matter what the terms are used, bipolar, schizophrenic, whatever it's used, the components of those disorders are these hypo and hyperactivities. All of them have these two kind of states in them. So, but allopaths, they call them bipolarity. There is no such a thing. These are two emotions to bring the balance into the body. So what happens when the body has no adequate essential nutrients? As I said, then the cells cannot duplicate. Muscles, bones, tissues cannot be made, the new ones. So in early, my main point is, in early phases of, disharmony, the internal organs, all the internal organs, kidney, liver, pancreas, stomach, heart, lungs, they're all working in harmoniously in collaboration. They all have different level of energies, but as a whole, all work holistically and in collaborations. In the first benign phases, for example, of depression, there is a cooperation and collaboration like a friendly groups. So the way that they try to borrow things from each other very respectfully. But in advanced cases, which becomes more chaotic and advanced, the organs, they don't respect each other. They kind of rob and steal from each other and becomes a non-friendly individual survival actions. At this point, depression, it's becoming more malignant. So as I mentioned in my book, I have a chapter in my book about the underlying causes of disease, of human disease. There are only 3 underlying causes. I call it Trinity of disease. Is chronic cellular starvation, chronic cellular intoxications, and adequate life energy flow. So that's, if these three exist, it's going to be the ultimate internal war and disharmony. So I just want to mention to them about depression, and also about the emotions that everybody thinks that, I'm not saying everybody in the house, but I mean the model, the conventional model, the failed methodology, as always think that emotions all created from the brain. Brain has a sophisticated network of creating emotions, very, very, very in an advanced form, but heart is been missing here, because the new science has not found the heart emotional pathways in human body, but ancient science has. The problem here is the brain has been the focus of the conventional method, and because they thought the brain is the one that creates the mental disorders. It's been researched well by the current model more than the other, because they assume the disease is created by the brain. Their focus is on the brain. But heart plays particularly very, very important role in human emotions. When Natasha talks about relationships, it resonates here. Heart plays a particularly very, very important role in creating human emotions. Listen to this. Heart emits an electric field 60 times greater in vibration or oscillations than the activity in the brain, 60 times more. And also, it creates electromagnetic field 5,000, just listen to the number, 5,000 times stronger than the brain. But the heart emotional pathways has not been studied and researched. We are here to teach it. We are here to teach people that emotions is not only created in in part of the brain is created actually in every cells of the body. Every cells in the body has a mind, and every single cell has its own emotions with its own electric magnetic currents. So I just wanted to mention to this that something that I always love to study. I have so much to talk about it, but I try to just brief it and have a brief overview on heart and brain. So heart has 60 times in electric and 5,000 stronger than the brain. So that's why when Natasha said the relationships and when you go to your doctor, when you talk about your relationship, what do they give you? They suppress it. They give you suppressive medication because they have no knowledge on that. All of these problems that is running in society around the globe is because of the ignorance and lack of knowledge. So we are here to pass this knowledge to people, and we are going back to ancient science, the true science.
You got it. Yeah, right, Parveen. I was made aware of the importance of the heart's electricity and frequency when I read a book called Divine Matrix by Greg Braden, which a lot of people understand. And especially, let's say, even during 9/11, you know, when that disaster happened, and certain other issues in society that were heartbreaking or uplifting, they were able to actually take a reading of that called heart math. And there is a real science coming up about, you're right, the heart being a brain, the intestines being a brain. And you're right, each individual cell has its own little personality. And we're going to know more about this. I can just tell that we're going to delve into these technologies and these understandings of the wisdom of our own innate healing for sure. So thank you, Parveen, for being a part of this.
Thank you.
And are there any more questions from anybody before we wrap it up for the evening? Because the what a great subject tonight. And you know, and I heard a little bee send a little message of comments that more than one person has said that this is probably going to be another subject for another talk very soon, because mental health is so huge.
As I was going to suggest that, I think we should have another session on that, because personally, a lot of major points that I like people to know, especially about suicide, you know, yes, because I want to open it up from different aspects. So maybe we should continue even next time. It's up to the team. So, but I mean, it's a big subject. And
I was one of the ones that sent the message to Lamont, and I said, I think we need to have part 2 because it's interesting, and we all have so much to say. This is the biggest topic, I think, definitely in our society today, is mental health and the awareness, and to let people know that it's okay to feel how you feel and to get through it. Like, we definitely need a part 2.
Yeah, in answer to I had a note for Natasha about that. You said you've been on 13 different kinds of medications, right? I don't know how many you are on it now, but to tell you, going off those medications, you have to be careful. So it is not as simple as you think, that you go on addictive suppressive medications. The reason I'm saying that, because for any reasons, the disharmony and chaos is being created inside you. So because of accident, because of bad relationships or whatever, and plus that you suppressed everything by this medication. And the only solution to for example, to your case, is to rewind the disease, rewind the disharmony. As I mentioned earlier, rewinding it, you need mechanism. It's not only talking to your friends. I just want to warn you about that. It's not just talking to your friend or talking to your loved ones. You can just go off 13 different medications.
No, I'm sorry
because these are
if I came
habits for
across
me.
that way.
No, I mean, no, I'm just trying
Yeah.
to make it clear. Yeah, because these are habits for me and they can cause more chaos within you, unnecessary chaos in addition to whatever, but you need to adapt or go to somebody who you trust to rewind the disease from malignant phase. Malignant, I mean that all the whatever the medication, even if it was not malignant, medication makes it malignant. So you have to rewind it by rewinding mechanism. For example, myself, I do it with homeopathic medicine, somebody else do it with acupuncture, somebody else will do it whatever techniques they have. But you have to be careful with that, choosing a right rewinding mechanism in order to move it from malignant to benign phase. Then the disease, the disharmony, chaos, and whatever is within you is going to be removed on its own. So at this point, it's something that I tell all my patients, all my people, and not to just go off, drastically, like without any rewinding mechanism. That's very.
I just wanted to mention, just so like our viewers know too, I should have mentioned that I am under doctor's care coming off these medications. I'm being monitored, my blood pressure, my heart's being monitored, everything's being monitored. However, I will mention that one time, I forget what happened and I didn't have my medication. Something happened to get it refilled and I didn't have it for 5 days. And I'm telling you, I can't even describe to you the torture I went through with everything. I was walking sideways. I couldn't eat. I was shaking. I was sweating. I couldn't sleep. I was very aggressive. It was like, it's definitely not recommended. So I just thought I'd say that I'm, I am doing this under doctor's care and with my therapist so that, But, and to answer your other question, I went from the 13 pills a day plus my supplements. Now I'm 6.5 pills a day.
Okay.
With my supplements. So it's like cutting it in half, and I'm quite proud of that because it's taken me like a year and a bit to get to this point. So I just want to mention that.
Great job. Proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of myself, actually.
Yeah. So any questions? Helen, would you like to talk?
Would I like to talk?
I think you're quiet a little bit.
I'm a person of a few words.
I know.
And that's what
I know.
you need to put in
I am.
there, right?
I think I'm the most bubbling person.
Hey, you love to share. That's why you're the educator.
I can hold my own too, guys. Don't worry. I can hold my own.
No, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed it. This is a great conversation, and like everybody here agrees, there probably needs to be a second more, like a mental number 2 sort of thing, as a little push on it and another addition to it, because this is a huge topic, and it has been suppressed. In history itself, we've been fed with a lot of things that we thought were right for us. We've been, inundated with a lot of stuff that it should be this way, it should be that way, follow this direction, if you get out of the box or if you get out of the path or whatever you're doing, that's a no, you got to get back onto it. And we're changing time as we're in right now in this year. A lot has happened, a lot of shift has taken place. A lot of people finding who they truly are because they haven't had the opportunity to go inward and see who they are, who they truly are, and what is your purpose? What is your purpose here? What is it that ignites your fire, right? I still need to find that out myself, in regards to my sessions and whatever, all the things that I do as well. It's like, what ignites my fire? What makes me, what keeps me going? And I know waking up is sometimes like, it's not easy because you still want to sleep, because it's energetically draining. But once you find your fire and you know what you're here for, you automatically get up and you do things. You're on a go. It's like Lamont's friend, his best friend Wade. He's like, up and he does this. He knows what he has to do, and it's like, that's good. He knows his mission, right? Not a lot of people know what the mission is, once you wake up, and once you're aware of your surroundings, once you're aware of what's truly going on, once you're aware of your capability, because we have a capability that's beyond that we don't even understand. And I'm still trying to understand this, in all aspects of, everyday aspect, just being awake and seeing everything that's going on and sensing things that are going on. It's amazing, truly, as this is amazing time to fully embrace what this is, because this will never happen again, because this is totally big shift going on, and the people that once we knew who they were are not the same people we thought they are, and we got to love them for who they are, love them for where they are, because we're not on the same path, right? We're all doing what we're doing, and one day we may cross paths. But in the meantime, we need to focus upon ourselves. So to, alleviate less of this and more of connecting with the heart, the mind and heart resonance,
Yeah,
it needs to be done. Yeah.
we're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it.
Can I make a comment again with Natasha's points about the medication? Do we have time?
Of course, of
Yeah.
course.
Natasha mentioned that people in society have become lazy. That's why they go for pharmaceutical drugs. Natasha, the whole system is being monopolized. They monopolize the medical market. The last 120 years, they monopolized the medical market. They kind of dominated the educational settings. They dominated the mainstream, media, and the availability, the accessibility, affordability of medicine is the key also for people to choose. So these are all the reason that people go for suppressive medications, because the whole market has been monopolized. Everything is dominated. The system is created this way that you have no choice. There are many people have no choice whatsoever to just seek for another way of treatments or another modalities or solutions, because the availability, affordability, and is just there for everybody. And even in Ontario, I don't know about Nova Scotia or other provinces, Ontario, people have OHIP, means they can go and see their doctors for free. And some of them actually, they get free medications. It's part of their plan, it's part of their plan that monopolize the medical market. If they didn't, there is a huge cost on medications, people don't go for it. If they're not available, people don't go for it. If they're not affordable, don't go for it. So the system is designed this way that the majority of people go for the pharmaceutical drugs, and it's happening. And actually, they have won. The system works for themselves, and that's why it becomes a profitable. I call it profitable science, and they're not going to ease it off that quickly, and they're not going to back off that easily. But that's why we're here. That's why we are here to bring knowledge, information to people that, and we try to, give our time, invest our time for free to people. We want to make it accessible to people to come to listen to us. So, what they have done the past 120 years, we're doing it now. And that's the reason that you went on the medication, not that you were lazy. So I just wanted to make this point.
Well, thank you for saying that. I guess it's just, when you're kind of put in that situation where you feel desperate, it is fight or flight. It's like do or die. That's how I was feeling, because after the car accident, the pain I was experiencing was just awful. And it went on for so long at its highest severity, where I end up getting injections 2 times a week in my upper half of my body and then my lower half of my body. So 2 times a week, I was getting these huge 4 needles, pain blockers. And while it worked, it helped. I'm like, I can't be getting 20 to 30 pokes in my body twice a week, every week for the rest of my life. I'm like, it got to the point where I was getting anxiety about needles. Like I never had issues getting like blood work or anything like that. And then the last time I had blood work, when they were putting the needle in, I actually felt anxiety. I'm like, that has to be from getting these injections twice a week, every week for a year. Right. So I come off of that altogether. And yes, I have more pain, but I'm also trying more natural approaches with things that I'm experimenting with, such as psilocybin. I've been microdosing psilocybin for my, my dopamine levels, my serotonin, just to balance out what these antidepressants are doing, right? I want them gone. So, and when I say about lazy, I guess I should clarify a little bit of my point about that was that people don't research anything anymore. They turn on the TV and they're like, oh, Dr. Oz told me to do that. You know what I mean? Dr. Oz said it was okay. Dr. Phil said this was fine. Well, like you're watching TV though. Like, do you not know? It's a program. It is a program. So I just want to say, like, as far as the lazy part with a lot of people is they're not doing research. Same thing with COVID. People did not do their research and they wouldn't listen to most of us with our research that we have done. We were wrong. Right? Like, so we have the people that took the time out to do the research, and then you have a lot of people that didn't do any research at all. Whatever doctor was on the 6 o'clock news telling you that you need to get a booster number 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, whatever, people are just listening to it. They're not researching anything. So in that sense, I think that's where people have become lazy. They're like, oh, well, he's a doctor, he knows best. Makes it easy for them because they don't have to spend the millions of hours I feel like I've spent on researching so much my entire life. And no, like the last 2.5, we're going into 3 years. I'm telling you, I've dedicated my life to being on a computer and flipping through articles and reading and talking and verifying. People are not doing that. There's where the lazy comes in. Oh, he says, I'll just take this needle and I won't get COVID, so I'll take it and it's done. Well, now people are dying. People are dying because of these injections, right? So there's the mental aspect of where people are just being manipulated constantly, and they've become very lazy. They want someone else to tell them what to do.
It's part of their suppressive method. It's part of their suppressive system. So this suppressive system is being advertised, is being, is dominating the whole society.
Absolutely.
So, and that's why they think that those allopaths are god and goddess, because they're the only one who have information for people. That's what they think. It's part of the suppressive plan and suppressive method that has been applied on societies for decades, but we always thought we are free. But we always thought we are free.
Don't forget, talk to your doctor. Ask your
talk to your doctor. You
If
turn on the radio, they say, talk to your doctor, ask your doctor, talk to your doctor. And in the meaning, first of all, they are not doctors. So doctors have to educate, like, first they should be human, and then they should educate people on everything they give them.
Absolutely. But you look at the doctors that have tried to do that in the last 2.5 years, they lost their jobs and they've been harassed and they've been ridiculed for
being shot.
Because it wasn't there some oath or something that doctors take, and it's supposed to be
no harm,
do no harm, right? But you're not helping anyone when you keep the truth from them, and the people know that. They know that. I shouldn't say they know that part, sorry. They know that doctors took this oath to do no harm. So people are trusting that the doctors are telling them the truth and what it is they have to do.
Violation of medical oath.
Absolutely.
violation of all these principles and laws and everything brought us to this point now.
Absolutely.
So we are honoring our oath. That's why we are here.
Mhm.
And we are here to, but unfortunately, that method, it's a brainwashing method as well. So they have gone through a, almost 10 years of brainwashing training. And, they cannot, and plus, they are the prisoners of their license, that
Mhm.
the doctor's license is not coming from universities, because these are not equal to doctors, they're equal to masters. But the doctorate degrees is coming from association, which is pharmaceuticals.
Mhm.
The pharmaceuticals give them the doctorate degrees or, physician degree. So
Yeah.
their license is in the hands of them. And losing their license after all these years of training for them is not easy.
It's devastating.
It's devastating.
It's devastating.
And but some of them, they're doing it. Some of them, they're just giving it up.
Here's a
Because-
thought, guys, to get, because you guys are, you even wear the same colors. You've got colors in your walls. Parveen's got the beautiful colors in her dress and her logo. I mean, you guys are like colorful in your minds, and what you guys could talk about all night. So I'm going to leave, if it's okay, I'm going to shut down the meeting tonight.
Yes.
But I'm leave you with one thought that that doesn't have a lot to do with the subject matter tonight, but I just want to open this up. There's a book I've recently been reading called The Law of One. And that explains in lots of different manners of speaking that, subconsciously, the same thing as Dr. Hawkins is talking about, is that we all inherently know the truth. And I think in a spiritual sense, the more we stray from that truth, the more turmoil our mental faculties place upon us. And there's a quote about the law of one, which explains that the more the people get on the same way of thinking around healing and community and becoming one, where we can all kind of relate to each other and not demonize each other and not separate and divide each other, this is one of the things they said in the book. When your peoples grasp infinity, then and only then can the gateway be open to the law of one. In other words, the more we open up that gateway to asking the right questions, we will understand that society is not finite. They want to keep constantly reminding us that there's always an end goal. There's always a mission to get to. The time is now. You have no more time. This is desperate. There's always this, but you know what? This is about infinity. We either learn this now or we're going to learn this in the future. So, at the end of the day, as long as we do our best to learn what it is to be community with experts that are able to help us down these roads while we can help each other in all the ways, then we'll get to that place. We'll get to that gateway where we will ultimately rise and human consciousness will benefit from what we're doing here. No matter who sees this, we've done it and we're going to keep going. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for your bravery and your courage, guys, for what we're doing. And on to the next show.
Absolutely. And thank all you guys as well. I really enjoyed tonight and I look forward to the next.
Yes,
Beautiful.
we're gonna have part two.
Yes, part two
part
is
two.
needed.
We're gonna have part two in 2 weeks. Everybody agrees?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank
Yeah,
you. Also,
it's a-
we know we're in contact with each other all the time, but Nushin, just wanted to say thank you so much for being a part of the
Thanks,
show.
Notion.
And,
Lamont,
Thank
if you
you,
want to
guys.
leave, Lamont, if you want to
Thank
leave, you
you.
can
Thank you
leave,
for
and I'm
sharing.
gonna end the meeting in 10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
If
Thank you,
Lamont has
Notion.
to leave, so that's what I'm trying to say.
oh, you want to stick around for a little longer, Parveen?
Until 3, until 9, because we put the last time we put it for 12 to 4, and some people they joined the last half an hour, and we already gone. So at this
Okay.
point, I'm committed to 3 hours. So if anybody wants to leave, thank you so much, but I'm gonna stay until the 3 hours is finished.
I'm totally willing to be there with you, Parveen. Make sure that you are, there you have it, you see?
No, that's the reason, because I don't want, it's maybe somebody just the last 5 minutes wants to say hello, and I want to be here. That happened the last time. 2 people told me that they joined, I think, 45 minutes to the
Okay.
end, and or half an hour or something. So I think we ended the meeting and we don't. So at